Hello. Hello.
Morning.
You can so I was not able to get off mute because the record meeting pop-up was up and I couldn't see the got it button. So I think anyone else who's having trouble unmuting, you have to accept the terms.
Looks like Marsh might be the host if there's issues with mutings.
Hi, I don't know how I became the host, but
I don't know
lucky
either.
me.
Yeah. Can you add Josh as a host? 'Cause you also have
Let me try.
recording to the cloud. So this is an interesting, don't know how the Zoom meeting seems to have changed.
Make host. Hold on, here we go. Hold on, why don't I just do co-host, because that way we don't lose one. That's probably smarter. Co-host. Boom.
You are now
You
also,
can't unmute, he says. Interesting.
yeah.
Ask to unmute. There we go.
Maybe that will have worked. If not, I'm happy to host and I'll just have to sit there and, oh, Josh is there.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
You won't be
Hey!
subjected to my hosting then.
Oh, I'd be happy to turn it over if you take us away. Oh, sorry about that, folks. I don't know what's going on, but I'll go
That's
check
exciting.
what exactly happened. Thank you, Marsh, for stepping up. What happened was
Fish.
I made myself the host because there's a special code you can put in. I did that, and then I still wasn't working, so I'm like, well, I better sign out. And it's like you got to make someone the host, so I made you. So thank you for stepping up there.
Me with years of training on Google Meet, suddenly trying to figure out how I admit people. And
Yes. Well, you did a great job. So let's see. Where's our agenda for today? So does everyone have the agenda? Let's just paste it in. Good, so we can just get right, jump in and get started. Um, let's see. So we usually start off if anybody is new and wants to say hello. Um, let's give folks a chance. We like to the reason, tell us who you are and what you specialize in so that we can call on you at the right times. It's the reason we ask. Anyone new here? Yeah, I see a couple new faces.
I can go. I don't know if I should raise my hand or not, but hey everyone, my name's Dave Grisanti. I am a principal engineer at the New York Times, working in our platform team. So feel free to call on me if you have questions. I can kind of go through, stuff that, tools we're using and stuff that you're curious, but I don't want to take up a ton of time. So I will hand it off to the next person if there's somebody else new.
We love end users, and yeah, we're gonna want to find that stuff out from you, and that's what we're gonna ask Michael.
Cool.
yeah, so any who else wants to that's new to say hello?
I'm also new to join this meeting or call or whatever gave it the name. Patrick Alers from the Netherlands. I work as a solution architect for consultancy company. Currently working with a big government company, and there we do. There basically my responsibility there is to basically design the whole private cloud, which is a big component of it is based on cloud native technologies with Kubernetes and a lot of stuff on it and around it. And basically, I was reading already a lot with also the platform and the white paper and maturity model. So I saw the meeting come by and say, hey, let's just join in and see whether I can also participate a little bit more and not only read a lot, but also maybe add a little bit. My background is in software engineering, been a software engineer for a while. I've been a manager for a long while, and now I've moved basically for a while back. I moved back to a little bit more technology on the technology side as a solution architect.
Thank you. Yeah, we're happy to get more voices. So thanks for joining. Anybody else want to go? We better cap it to about 10 or 20 seconds per person. If anybody else would like to introduce.
Nice. Hi, everybody. Luca, running product Humanitech, and yeah, just been quite active in the platform engineering Slack and platform con and broadly the platform engineering community. So really excited to join the group.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Luca. Good to see you.
I'm happy to go next. Hi, my name is Florian. I lead product marketing at Humanitech, also joining for the first time here.
Nice. Yeah, good to have some Humanitech representation. We've heard of you guys.
Thank you.
Anyone else new want to introduce? Give this the last chance because let's cap this.
Okay, so yeah, I think I have introduced myself in the Slack channel, but haven't verbally, so this will be quick. My name is Joshua. I'm the software engineer in the platform team from the GoTo Financial, and we're really looking forward to learn from you all here. Thank you.
Awesome. So, one of the things that, great to hear from everybody. And one of the things is we do want to capture the insights that a lot of you folks have. And that's actually, I think, part of what we're doing with what Michael Luskin has been leading for us, trying to get together some interview framework so we can better understand the state of our industry. So that's the first thing on our agenda today. So Michael, if you want to, can I turn it over to you? And you can take like 20 minutes here, I think, to kind of describe where we're at right now and what we want to do next.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, so for some of you've been along for the ride up to this point. Some of you are looking at this for the first time. Actually, see, can somebody? I guess I can screen share, or does everybody this way? Just so everybody's looking at the same thing. I'm unfortunately stuck with one monitor right now. I'm not used to this. Okay. So I posted. Okay. Okay, perfect. So this is our working doc for the project. We've gone through few, let's say, incarnations of this at this point in terms of what this thing was going to be or could be. And after a lot of conversations in the community, we've realized that we actually don't really know what things look like out in the world. We have our personal experiences and some ideas. So where we want to take this work is really to understand what are the emergent practices in platform engineering on the product thinking side of things. Like, how is the work approached? And then David Stanglin put together this nice intro, background and target audience. The kind of folks we want to talk to are the kind of technical leads, the people who are close to the work but have a a good sense of how it relates to the rest of the organization, who would be able to answer things for us around how things are prioritized, how stakeholders are aligned, if success is measured or how it's measured. Part of that work now is running through and creating those questions and exploratory open-ended questions where we don't lead people into giving us an answer we think we already know in terms of, you know, the kinds of practices that should be happening in companies. It's more of a, how are these things done in the first place? To what extent are they done? So we have mapped out, if you go to the bottom of it under proposed format, kind of a rough framework in terms of, you know, the goal of understanding practices today. And then we're starting to break it down in terms of how we're actually going to practically carry it out, starting from introduction with the people we're interviewing in terms of what the purpose of this work is. Right now, the rest of what the interview script should eventually be are a series of questions that don't logically flow yet. They're not connected. It's just a list right now of things we want to know. And that's where the work is today, is to run through that list and shape an actual interview that flows from beginning to end, with the understanding that we'll probably have no more than 45 minutes with people to get through this. So what are the most important, interesting, relevant things that we'd like to know about the way work happens today? On the back end, once we collect this information, that's where we can start piecing it together during the synthesis process of, well, what product practices are we actually seeing here? How mature is the industry across these companies? So that when we produce our final product around, here are the insights, here are the interesting quotes and stories that we can tease out to illustrate these insights. That will be kind of our collective job for those interested in doing that work. Did I, David, Josh, did I miss anything obvious?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, that was good. And one thing that I think we should call out is that we're trying to create this in a way that everybody here can use the same basic framework so that we can, so that's.
Yeah, thank you. That is, yeah, thanks, I did miss that. That's the other big piece of this. So out of this, for our own internal use, we do want to create a playbook for kind of how these interviews are going to run for those people who are interested but maybe haven't been exposed to running a lot of research, interview techniques and approaches, best practices, all the way to, you know, how to pair up and conduct them, including, you know, some tooling that we're trying to get in place around automatically recording, transcribing, so that on the back end, those folks who want to then dive into research, to the transcripts and start labeling them and teasing out phonetically interesting things, there will be a uniform standard way that everybody can do it without stepping on each other's toes. And that hopefully, once we go through one iteration of this, will kind of be the baseline for how we do this work in the future. So this is kind of the, is it fair to say, kind of the emergent research practice at CNCF?
Yeah, I think so. It's the first time we're trying something like this, or from very grassroots.
So yeah, I think for most of us, I don't think we've ever done it in a kind of a community-driven kind of way. You know, usually it's small focus teams doing this. So this is a fun experience, I think, for all of us. I guess any immediate questions, especially folks looking at this for the first time? So David, from the New York Times, I almost don't want you to look at this because I want to interview you.
Okay. I glanced at it, but it's very long, so don't worry, I didn't absorb too much.
No, but I mean, it's up to you. If you want to contribute in the work itself, you know, it's like, I don't think we'll have a shortage of people we can talk to.
Yeah, and from my perspective, there's more than, you know, just me on, exactly. On the team. So I feel like if I end up looking and you want to interview somebody else, I can always suggest somebody that can fill in as much details as I can.
Somebody who won't be biased by crafting the questions themselves. And
I actually feel like that was a really interesting insight in itself of like, oh, that looks like a lot to absorb and might be a reason why interviewing some of the end users, we have more than one end user right now on the call, but interviewing some of the end users before they get too deep into how we've crafted it, to get maybe really honest feedback about and kind of like bought in, you'll be in the weeds if you can then help make it better, right? Because if a lot of times when people go through an interview, they by the end of it, you're like, what did you think of that interview? And people are like, it was fine. And then they just move on. Whereas actually, if you're part of the group and you feel like you can have a chance to influence how to improve it for the next interview, we might get more effective feedback on how to make it.
Yeah, and I think, in part maybe because we've kind of, let's say, had a little bit of a slow ramp up to this. I don't think it's a bad idea to either do this with people, on the group who would also be kind of ideal interviewee, to do just some dry runs, just to run through it and see how it feels and how it sounds and what we're missing or what other questions come up. Because at least in my experience, the first couple of interviews, even when you're ready and you've done the pre-work and then you go into your proper interviews, the first couple are always like learning, right? Things you wish you asked or how you should have crafted things, or so yeah, I think we have the opportunity to do it here. But yeah, the bulk of it now is, between now and actually Josh, given the timing in December, the next meeting is still in 2 weeks, right? The working group session.
Yeah,
That's not conflicting with anything.
Well, let's talk about that. Yeah, we might want to cancel that. It's kind of the day after Christmas.
Oh, okay.
But I think what we need to do today is get everyone's eyes on, I guess, the headings in this proposed format section, like audience that we're trying to get, the format that we kind of want to do. Maybe even get maybe we even walk through the questions in the script right now, just see if there's any significant debate. I'd love for us to get, we could even sign up a couple of the people on this call now to join us in a call, let's say next week, and be a first run of this. I'd love to, let's see if we can move it forward here. I'm looking, the first thing comes to mind is audience. So should we be targeting only platform engineers and members of platform or DevOps teams? I'm kind of positing we should.
Yeah, I think that's a good start. Also, we need to constrain it, right? Like, we're also keeping, for example, the consumers of the platform out of it. Although we know it'd be a great gut check if we can interview consumers in the same organizations to see how what the platform team says matches up with the experience of consumers. It's, that becomes way more ambitious and something we could do after.
I have a quick question. It says pretty much focusing on tech leads and product managers. What about other teams that are interacting with the platform team? I'm thinking like agile practitioners or project managers or, those sorts of folks.
Yeah, I guess.
Sorry. I think the goal is for us to work with the people who are building and find out how and why they are building. And so if there's an agile practitioner on the platform, in the platform organization, that would be great. But if they're a customer or stakeholder, then I think that comes at a later time when we start to figure out the health of the practices as opposed to like the intent or things like that. So that's why right now we're focused on sort of like looking outward from the platform team's perspective and finding out if they care about customers as users, as customers, and things like that.
Yeah, right now.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I just wanted to make sure we were thinking about that as well, because I think there's other, let's say, folks that work with the platform teams that may have interesting insights.
Do you mean like in this thing we wrote tech leads and product managers, but we should, if you get a senior engineer on a call, you could ask them a lot of similar questions. Are you saying that should be included, or did?
Yeah, that, or just in general, I think saying anybody working, let's say, directly with the platform team on the build out of a platform or something along those lines. I don't know what the right wording is there, but
And actually,
Yeah.
maybe the biggest thing here is that we should note in the notes the level or the role of the person we talk to, because that will shed some insight on what they say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll definitely be capturing their backgrounds, and it's true. I mean, a senior engineer on the platform team can obviously tell you a lot about how things happen, right? This isn't like technical lead, and the way we've defined it isn't the end all and be all of the people who can give us the insights we want. But I think part of it is limiting it to members of the platform team and understanding how they operate today as like just a baseline to understand what this world looks like, and then moving from there, right, to other, like, from there the natural place will be to move out to consumers and leadership in the company, right? There's like a lot of interesting work that can be done to understand how the platform relates to the rest of the business from perspectives of other teams.
That's another, yeah, business leaders. We
But
don't have them at this moment.
yeah, I think we should explicitly kind of say, it's always, at least I always find it helpful when you're doing this kind of stuff, who you explicitly want to talk to, but at the same time also who you explicitly want to qualify out, like the kind of people you definitely don't want to talk to in this round, just to make it kind of a little easier.
Yeah, I'm writing this down as we talk in the notes. Those that non-goal to consumers or users, non-goal to interview business leaders for now.
Yeah, because this is kind of the. Oh, go ahead, John.
No, nothing. Yeah.
No, I was going to say this is kind of part of the original problem of when folks started first looking at this topic. There are a lot of ways in which you could take it, a lot of different viewpoints. How we got to this place is reduce it down to like looking at the team in their own words. What does the world look like to them? And then it's our job on the back end to construct a picture of how well does this conform to what we think of as good kind of product thinking or kind of strategic thinking around the approach to work based on what they say they do today.
So,
yeah, and I think, sorry, Jess.
No, I
I think it's really interesting how we're talking about the emergent properties, because I think that thread today in the platform product channel thing that was started about like a proxy is having a product manager, but actually a lot of early stage platform teams may or may not have product managers, but that doesn't stop them from having product thinking. And in some ways, early stage teams getting a product manager, because I think that will solve their problems, is actually could be something we learn some data around actually being detrimental, right? We have a theory that maybe that's detrimental in that it distances the engineers from product thinking because it sort of outsources it to a single human. That was the theory in the thread today from people's experiences, but that's something that we may find in conversations, that if a less mature platform engineering practice that throws a product manager in the mix actually has negative impact in comparison to a mature product or a mature platform engineering team and group. Throwing a product manager in the mix actually accelerates them, right? And so you can actually see that different outcomes depending on the maturity level of the team using that technique or applying that technique. So
yeah, and we should I was just going to say we should capture that explicitly, because there's a lot of good stuff in just mining for that, right? If you have product-minded people on the team, you don't need a product manager, or at least the thinking is you don't explicitly need a product manager, especially at a smaller scale. But if nobody's thinking about that when it comes to the work, then obviously a product manager, or at least we think a product manager, would be helpful. So it really depends on the skills, attributes, and background of the team doing the work, and then if we can correlate that with how they do the work, we can have some sense of what that means for a team.
So we're kind of into that. I added that, what we just said at the beginning of the discussion questions. We're kind of talking about what we would talk about with them. They like looking through this proposed format. I did add in here the format for conducting interviews. Do we need to discuss that? Like, do we think it would be we'll try to get two of us together?
Yeah, I think it's generally always best to kind of pair up on interviews. One person can't think of like the meta conversation happening and pull on the thread and simultaneously drive what's in front of them on the script.
Note taker.
Yeah, and usually it's like, yeah, no, the other person's always the note taker. In our case, we're also transcribing, but it's nice to have somebody actually mark out interesting moments where you can pull a thread, whereas maybe the primary person is just like trying to like get to the next question. Right, that's a strong impulse to like get through a list of questions.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I was going to say, and like that's part of, for our own internal consumption for this project and everything going forward, I think we can iterate on is what's the playbook for how we conduct these interviews, right? Because the nice benefit out of this is people maybe who also haven't been exposed to a lot of this kind of work can now develop that skill by doing it here.
Do you think so I was also thinking like maybe we create a GitHub repo. We could even create it like in the CNCF tags space, and folks, when they're done, could submit the notes and the recording there.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the specific logistics, maybe that part we offline, because it depends on like if we get our hands on that tool and how we can feed interviews into that tool in like a very seamless kind of way where people can just like put it in there and then.
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever it is,
Definitely plus one.
it needs to be as immediate as possible. I mean, anyone who's done work, just people interviews, right? That's like someone's always getting after you for your notes. So
100%. Yeah, it has to be like you're done the interview, just put the like as soon as the video's ready, put it in our tool.
Yeah. And I think just to add to like the conversation we were having last week, we want to try and generate content as quickly as possible rather than need to abstract it before sharing, right? We don't need to get to the point where we have a state of something to publish this stuff out. Actually, at this stage, it's more emergent. There's so many unique experiences that each individual experience in itself will provide information and add clarity, and then later we'll be able to take that information and abstract it, but we want to try and make this something that gets published more regularly if possible.
Do you have already an idea what the tool is? Like, are we going to upload the videos to YouTube or Google Drive? What's the idea?
There is good question. There is a ticket out for a tool like Condense or Dovetail, like a tool that's designed for research, where you upload the video, it automatically. Okay. For those who aren't familiar, it's like essentially you upload them, it transcribes the videos. Then anybody who's working on it can like label and timestamp things. Those things get elevated and grouped thematically, so it's a lot easier to organize and view information and work with it as a large group. Because on a small team, hacking it together with like like putting it on YouTube or Google Drive and then looking at transcripts and manually going through them works. But here, I think it's going to get unwieldy.
I think one more thing would be nice is to, and very likely these tools don't support it, is to make the recordings public afterwards, because then the rest of the community can consume it independently of this research as well.
Yeah, I think that will be in part up to like the interviewees opting in, if that's something they want. And the interviewers. Pretty much everybody opting in and wanting it to be a public.
Well, I was kind of wondering about that. How are we like? What if somebody says they don't want it to be public, because our group itself is already kind of public?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. They say that they don't want to be recorded on the same level, like even a step further.
Maybe we need
that's a qualify out.
Yeah, exactly. Like normally when you do this, there's like, even ahead of the interview, this is something you send over and you say, hey, these are kind of the preconditions. This is how it's going to run. And very much explain that how that data is going to be used, right? You're going to be recorded. We're going to transcribe it. We're going to use it for research purposes. This is how long after the fact this video will live and who will see it, to make people comfortable with the fact that it's out in the world.
I think the thing that I was raising last week is I'd like to make a precondition that a transcribed version, even if it is removing scrubbing the name of the human and the organization they work for and just saying this organization is a large X type of company based in this country or whatever, should be required. Otherwise, we shouldn't interview them, and that's okay. First of all, just to be clear, there will be companies that means that we can't interview them, and I understand that, and that's okay. But we should ask for the ability to post the video as like essentially a podcast, right? Vlog. If the video is not okay because they need some level of anonymous behavior, that's okay too. And then we say, okay, well, can we transcribe if we scrub your name and your company's name? And if we can't do either of those things, then I think we lose the value of the interview for the context of this group. And that doesn't mean that individuals here might not get value if they still want to tell their story in some other way. But like, I think we have to acknowledge where the investment of this group focuses.
I think those are a few good points we need to work through. I think anonymized transcript is like the raw data that we keep is useful, and I think a lot of people will be okay with that if you strip company and themselves. The thing I'm afraid with like, hey, we're going to put this video out there, even as a thing we ask and people maybe don't think it through and opt in, is by its very nature is going to change how they answer questions, right? Because they know it's going to be out in the world. And my fear is that we lose candidness in that process. Like I want people to know that, like, you can go as deep and raw on what's really happening in your company as you can. And like, what are the preconditions on our end to make that likely for people to share? Because I'll tell you this, if you're telling me you're going to record me and it's for public consumption and this thing's going to travel around, I'm going to get political with my answers. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I'll chime in. So I think for me, as an end user, that's definitely true. And a lot of it's maybe less about my own comfort on answering the questions and being honest, and how the New York Times would want me to answer the questions, and whether or not I'm even able to talk about certain things. So, because there's a big difference in like giving a public talk about stuff and kind of glossing over details and trying to answer some of the questions truthfully. So I think the anonymized, non-posted video is safe for probably a lot of people. But yeah, I agree. The posting it publicly and making it available, I think, is going to scare some people away.
So we're kind of saying we shouldn't publish the series of videos. Even if we record them, they should just be for internal people in this group.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone who would want them. Maybe there's somebody who would want the video posted, but I have a feeling a lot of people are not going to want them.
That could be something else. If somebody wants to do a video series, I think people have done that. But that would be a different.
Yeah. The other related question is on screen sharing. I think like one thing that we encourage at GitLab at user interviews is that we encourage user to share their screen, because actually we want not just stories, but we want to really see their pains and situations. For those times, we typically stop the recording, and as we are kind of coming up with a with a shared scenario to run these interviews, I think we should agree whether we want to encourage screen sharing, and to make it clear that we are not recording shared screen, or we're not recording parts when the user asks us, the interviewee asks us to not record.
Yeah, if it comes up naturally, maybe there's like an interesting point and you make a judgment call that like, oh, it would be great to see this thing. I guess the first thing that I'm thinking of is, we have 45 minutes. The idea is to go exploratory and just build a view of the world that's going to kick off other research. Going on like workflows and having them like actually pull up tooling sounds like it would be like subsequent research, right? When we like get into like more technical specifics, or like how things actually happen. Because at this level, it's more of a, approach to work, prioritization, measuring success, aligning things, which is not really in the tools per se, right?
I mean, I was thinking about measuring success specifically. That could be, here's my dashboard.
Oh, yeah.
That was what I had in mind.
That's fair. And, if they're comfortable doing that, it'd be, maybe we could grab, like a screen grab of a dashboard stripped down, or we stop recording, or we strip it out after, or we just get them to like run through what are the KPIs, what do you measure? Just walk me through what's there.
Yeah.
it just, the two things is just being mindful of the time. We don't have the luxury of just kind of open-ended conversation, and we want to get through whatever it is that, we definitely have more questions that we need to whittle down to get into 45 minutes, so we can prioritize what's actually important to learn than the other way around.
Do that now, Michael.
So,
do you want to maybe walk through some of the proposed questions for a few minutes? See if
but also, can I just quickly what is the ideal outcome of this for you? Like, because it sounds like part of it is creating content, part of it is research, or what is the primary goal?
Yeah, good question. At least for me, I consider the primary goal is to, shape this in terms of like research insights, but to give, to paint a picture of like, here's what the world looks today. On the back end, we're the ones who are connecting the dots on, based on what we're learning, how well does it map to our understanding of what good, kind of product thinking practices are, right? In terms of like subsequent content or how it can be packaged up or kind of reporting out or doing blogs or anything smaller along the way. For me at least, that's all kind of negotiable and isn't the primary like outcome of the research.
So it's to learn, but also to then present it in a way that is, and I'm sorry, I'm just asking questions. I'm sure you discussed like the previous sessions. What is okay, yeah. And why qualitative format instead of more of a quantitative like survey, I guess?
Well, I think,
or you think of like maybe you start with qualitative and then when you figure out what you really want to ask, you just scale it up.
Exactly. Surveys are not great for understanding the world and the motivations behind things, right? It's like we think these are the things that matter and we know, and we just want to see in aggregate, do these things happen? Surveys are, good at that, and we're not there, right? This is understanding how people think and approach work at that level.
Thank you.
I do think that we're educating ourselves, and I'm gonna just say we're also educating the industry. Like, so that publishing the report at the end is kind of important because we're trying to, enable vendors, enable users. So yeah, kind of share our learning so everyone can learn from them too.
So, but this, to be clear, would be a state of.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
A summary of this is what we've learned about the current state of.
Right.
Yeah.
I think trying to get there, but just not. I think the big thing is we're not
Not
forcing
right away.
that as like if that takes us more time because we see that there's actually quite a divergent. The state could be it is still very emergent and there are lots of different ways, and here's some examples until we start to get to something that's more of a pattern. And I think that's the key, is that we're not trying to like force a solution onto people. It's more like pulling from the community out versus forcing that.
I think that's that's the key word throughout this, right? We're trying to make this properly exploratory, not just confirm like here are the things that should be happening, here are the people who do these things, here are the people who don't do these things on the curve of the industry. We don't know. We have some anecdotes and some suspicions, and this is the first kind of project we're doing to understand what that looks like and the motivation and rationale and practices within these companies and how they connect.
So I was taking it, it's 10:40, so just keeping an eye, like we can keep talking for a few more minutes. The discussion questions, I just wanted to get a sense if we're on the right path as a group. Do we agree? Like, I think right now we have 9 or 10 open-ended discussion questions there. Are they along the lines of, what we all agree we should be asking?
I have a pretty strong opinion here that quite a few of these I think are not good interview questions, because these are questions that you can ask assuming best intent, and typically what we try to ask are more like, when was the last time when you did something? When put the person in a situation and ask them to describe that situation. I tried to come up with a variant on all of these under this section. You can see it's this script discussions, interview questions instead of research questions. I changed the ordering a little bit as well because the ordering is not final yet, and this ordering was more natural to me. So overall, to answer your question, I think the topics are the topics that I would ask following the discussions we had in the doc. But I think we need a bit of work on the questions themselves to make them interview questions instead of research questions.
Yes, 100%. Spot on. This was just like a rough list of where we want, like the kinds of things we want to find out, but they're very much not in a format that would that is best positioned to get us a sense of like honesty and truth about what's going on, right? So the way you were talking about what how you operate at GitLab, asking for historical, when was the last time, that's where we want to get with most of this, right? An understanding of not the aspirational version of of what people how people approach work, but what they've actually done as the best indicator of how they operate.
I think it would be good to do. Sorry, no, Victor.
No, I just want to say that I think the variant that I added at the bottom, I didn't remove anything from the current discussion list. So if you agree that these are better questions, I just move them up to the discussion part. I just didn't want it to do it on my own, and it's quite a lot of text to put in a comment.
No, this is good. This is really good. And I think this also sets everybody else up to kind of contribute around. In part, like I wonder how helpful it would be to kind of, we talked about techniques and approaches to interviews and all that good stuff. I wonder how helpful it would be to just like bring that in now to kind of level set everybody on how we want to approach asking questions.
Yeah, that would be fun. You mean bring up the sheet now and kind of walk through it? I think that's okay. We're running low on time, but maybe.
I was gonna say, I think that might be good for the next one. The one thing I want to call out is Victor's here, and I know he's worked really hard on a blog post. It's gotten some feedback and is something that we wanted to target releasing. And so possibly something we could do a little bit async and then pull into the next meeting or something, just because I don't want to lose the ability to also bring attention to the blog post and make sure that gets out as well.
Yeah, so why don't should we try to wrap up this conversation for now?
Yeah, maybe I'll just say that. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna try to figure out what our next steps are.
I think it might be helpful async just to pull in like a resource for people, or even just pull out what matters when it comes to crafting questions so they can refer back to some basic framework of what good interview questions look like as they contribute. And then essentially working through these questions to round them out, right? Because in terms of categories, we want to hit that like prioritization, measuring success, adoption, release, like all of the ways you would think about working on within the team.
Could we maybe set a goal to interview somebody next week? Maybe if somebody here wants to volunteer and we all get together and work through the questions and interview at the same time, kind of.
It would be really useful for managing how much we're trying to get out of 45 minutes.
Timing.
Yeah.
Does anybody here on this call want to volunteer to be the interviewee? I mean, you're gonna be ganged up on a little bit because there'll probably be a bunch of people in the call. So are you tough?
Who wants to be the center of attention for 45 minutes?
David, any interest?
Yeah, I know.
Where's Matt? Is he in here? I bet he would enjoy it.
I was gonna say, this is also something we could ask in the chat because there might be people who are unable to attend. I know that there were, CNCF, we had some people from the train line company and different end users around here and there that might take us up on that. Just not gang up on you, poor David. Although David, you're welcome to do it as well. But
I'm on vacation all of next week, so I will
Yeah.
I
Good.
totally opt out for now.
Enjoy it. Happy holidays.
We need to identify who we'll do that with, but do you want to do it at the same time next week? Maybe this time, Michael?
Yeah,
Same
I think that will work. I mean, it doesn't matter. Anybody, I'm sure once we post it out in the group, somebody will want to go for the ride. And I think figuring out our timing, testing our questions, just getting a sense of how it's going to look sooner rather than later makes sense.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay. Thank you. So let's take a break on that for now. Thank you for the in-depth conversation. It was really good progress forward. Always take the steps forward at a time. Abby, can you lead this next part and discuss the blog post? That would be awesome.
Yeah, mostly want to just hand over to Victor. So the one thing I will say is I've been very negligent on getting the documentation out on how to help other people be as empowered as Victor was to write a blog post. It is still open in PRs and issues. It's something I want to work on. I will get there. Life, open source, hi. But Victor's done a great job of pushing through despite not having a lot of documentation. So I hand it over to you, Victor. I don't know where you stand. I know the goal was to sort of get that published before the holidays. And so what asks you have?
Yeah. So we have a PR open there. It's linked in the main VG platform notes, so not in the interview related one. And basically, this was previously reviewed by many of you in a Google Doc. I know that not everybody saw the Slack thread, and there's already some discussion happening in the pull request as well. But basically, if you have anything to provide as feedback, I will try to be responsive. And I have no idea, and I think many of us don't really know how the final decision will happen. So if we can discuss that, that would be nice.
So in terms of the final decision, I can answer that one. It's kind of consensus driven, but we just need someone to sign off. Like I can handle that, like sign off and put it in once everybody feels it's appropriate and good to go. I need to review it too. So
Yeah, I think from one thing I'd like to propose, and this is I'm possibly catching poor Josh off on off on this one, but I don't, in my opinion, I think we wanted the blogs to be something that was a slightly lower barrier to entry than something that is a published, like the group is publishing X, the group has published an interview, the group has published a white paper, the group has published something. So in my opinion, the sign off is, this is what I'm going to try and document. So I apologize, Victor. As I said, I appreciate you pushing through the lack of clarity. But things like it's not a sales pitch, which we've talked about. There was one line, we've already fixed that. So it's not a sales pitch. It's clearly a value to the industry as it stands. But that would be something, the fact that it doesn't, that if it calls into question anything that has been published by the group, that the group is aware of that. It's not that you can never call into question something the group has written, but that if it does call into question something, that it's discussed with the group so that it is something that we acknowledge as an evolution of our thinking rather than just something of like, or is like acknowledging that the group is putting out contradicting ideas, like as a way to drive conversation. But we just don't want it to be unintentionally contradictory, right? That doesn't mean you have to always agree. Just let's be upfront if they are different. I think those are the only things I can consider blockers. Other than that, I think a lot of this is we want it to be something that we go, yep, that's an opinion piece that fits within the train of thought that we're going with, that has been reviewed by a handful of people, including a lead who can agree that it falls under sort of the frame of thinking. And yeah, I don't know, Josh, if that aligns with your thinking. As I said, I'm catching you a bit off guard with that summary.
yeah, I think I heard from you a couple basic requirements, and then a technical lead from the group. Anyone just sign off that it's of the quality that we seek, and that it's doesn't have to be opinion we agree with, but that it's it's a reasonable opinion, and put it out there. Yeah, that's I think we can be a little more light-handed there. Makes sense to me.
And presumably, if you disagreed with the post, you could write an opposite point of view and publish it as well, right? I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, again, it's the only, I think it's all
By the way,
about we wanna drive the
like I said,
conversation.
I didn't mean that to be ominous in it. Like I think that like in the thread, and Victor, I mean, I think it's really hard to come in with not without having that process in place. And then I didn't understand the vision that Abby described before. And so I do apologize if I came across too strong in my comments. I just thought it would be useful for you to have them ahead of this discussion today rather than later, right? So I was struggling to, and I apologize because I also missed the thread in Slack somehow. So I didn't see it until it was already in a PR. So sorry for coming in late.
Yeah, this is us kind of learning how to leverage that blog. So thanks for coming out and trying it, Victor.
Yeah.
I think, as I said, this is on me. I'm in the process of trying to write up better guides to empower more people to be able to do this successfully and not stressfully. So I think one of the things that came up in the issue was trying to put this stuff into Slack more. I agree. I think there's going to be a suggestion in this process that says bump your thread every week or so, because Slack is asynchronous and a freaking fire hose. So people will miss things, and that's okay, but we need to bump them. And so basically we're learning, right? And we're going to learn. I'm going to propose some ideas to try and help people do this effectively and as low stress as possible, but that won't be the right way from the start. It'll just be our best case for right now, and we'll iterate on it as we get better. So yeah, but I think definitely the starting in the Google Doc is something that we have found huge value in. The getting visibility through Slack, I think we can improve on, and that will come into this, like trying to bump that thread a few times more. And then acknowledging that once you open the pull request, it will get more eyes, and what does that look like, and what are the kind of checklists of who needs to approve it and review it, like are all things that need to be sort of transparent, right? Visible to people as they go through. But Victor, I'm definitely behind you. I think I've seen how much hard work you've done and how much you've been responsive to comments and questions and all that. So I think I'd like to help you by setting a bit, I know you're not doing this, but I'd like to help you by setting a bit of a deadline of getting this out before holidays. So I think if we can try and, if people would like to get in on the conversation, please do so. I think aim to do that this week. I think we will aim to get this approved end of week / I don't know, Josh, do you take any time off? When would be the kind of do or die moment for you?
Yeah, mine is I still have time next week, but let's try to do it by Friday.
Cool. Yeah, so let's try and do it by Friday. So everybody have a look. By putting the deadline, it's not to discourage people from engaging. It's just acknowledging that, like, all of our work, there's never enough time to talk about it. There's always something else we can learn and always something else we can discuss, and we just have to draw a line in the sand at some point. And on this blog post, we're going to aim for that to be this Friday. And as Marsh was saying, everybody can then hopefully, once I get the guidelines out, even before the guidelines are out, hopefully can propose other blog posts and we can go through this process. So for visibility, this has been about a month, I would say, of effort from you, Victor. Is that about right? And I think that's about what I would expect from a blog post, in the sense, I don't suspect we're going to get much faster than that because we're an async group. It's going to happen, but I would be very sad if we can't get blog posts out that are relatively aligned with the group and having kind of feedback and responsiveness from the author in more than a month, if it took us more than a month. So just to set of expectations there.
If I'm asked, what does relatively aligned mean? Because I think that's where the things get tricky.
I guess the point for me is in reference to things we've published in more formality.
Okay.
Like,
right. So you don't want to conflict with positions we've taken in other works. I got it.
In the formal works, really, right? In the white papers. And again,
it takes 6 to 9 months to get a white paper out.
Yeah.
Because you want to get a whole lot of, it takes a long time to get people to give feedback.
And I want to be very clear, you are allowed to conflict with things that we've written in the white papers and in the maturity models, because we will evolve our stances. I just want to be very deliberate when we do so, like very forward with it. We have learned since publishing this 6 months ago that this thing has happened in these examples, and therefore we want to bring a contradictory idea. Cool. Like, this is not a cult where if you do not agree with the thing that we published 6 months ago, then get out. We have to be learning. So I just want to make sure that like no one, the way that I word that of, hey, it's relatively aligned is an acknowledgement that if you are not aligned, you're calling it out explicitly, and that's okay. And we have that conversation versus that like you can't write something that is not 100% backing up what we've previously published, because too emergent a space to be having that kind of a firm stance on stuff. So yeah.
Abby, is there there's a couple other lines here. Did you want to talk about these? There's a process for introducing a working group idea, which maybe is what you're talking about.
That's
here.
what I'm talking about. That I'm falling a bit behind on that. I apologize. It's been quiet for a week or two, but please as well, like if this is interesting to you, if you're someone who's been thinking about publishing things and don't know how to, if you review some of the things I've written there and they feel still very woolly and difficult to engage with, that would be really good feedback to me. If there's something that would be able to help you, please let me know.
I'll definitely try to have a look at it. I'm sorry I've been away for a couple of weeks. Just joined in now. I know we initiated the discussion during the project meeting that we did, and at my organization I lead the content side of things. So we have a pretty well formatted process in terms of Slack as well as the Google Doc, the checklist. So I'll definitely have a look at the document, share my inputs, and then we all can have a decision around it and probably take it forward. So I'll take it up on me as well to contribute to that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. And then the other one that Marsh, I have an apology to you. As much as I'm pushing forward the work Victor's doing, I also want to push forward the glossary work, and I've been a bit negligent there. But we have an issue here, and I will make a promise to, let me add the issue in under this.
It's an issue, right? It's not.
Yeah, but I'll make a promise to add, we have like a Google Doc to start collaboration on there that hasn't, that Marsh has put some work into, but that we haven't really kind of dove into yet. And I'll make a commitment to making sure that's in there like today, tomorrow, like this week, so that we can start really kicking off that work. And just for an expectation around that scope of work, we think that's probably more than a blog post, less than a white paper. So we're looking at that will realistically take us a couple of months to kind of get alignment on, but it should be something that we can lean on our past writings to drive out and identify. And so for those that weren't around when the glossary first got created, it was a bit of an afterthought coming out of the white paper. We realized that it would be valuable to have some sort of a glossary, and we sort of just threw it together kind of near the end of that piece of work. And we were realizing over the last couple months as we were doing the maturity model that some of those glossary terms were a bit difficult to differentiate and possibly not fully inclusive of all the terms we would want to have and things like that. And so we wanted to take some time independently to evaluate the glossary. And so, yeah, please jump into that piece of work. That'll be happening, as I said, over the next probably month or two. So we're, yeah, Marsh.
I know we're at time here, but at the end, two things. One is that I think I'm not aware of us having any community posts like the one that Victor's been driving yet. And I think it may be important to explain the kind of content that we're publishing here and refer back to the policies for how you publish. So I wonder, Abby, if we can accelerate the policies and what the process would be like in order to accompany that and frame how people participate. The second thing, and I mentioned it earlier, but I don't know if it was caught in chat, but if we're recording interviews, I think having an explicit policy that explains how those are being recorded, who has access, and how that access is managed is maybe necessary. I mean, that seems like a good upfront way to have people be comfortable with the implications of that being on the spot asked whether it's okay to record, so if that makes sense.
I added that note to our previous create a policy. Okay, so I think that we are at time now. We've discussed everything we can for today.
On that, I just want to say, Marsh, I can make a commitment that I can get that out by next week. I don't want to block the blog post, but I think if it comes out 1 week after and points to the blog post as an example, it would be almost as effective as getting out just before the blog post. So I can commit to getting a first
Yep.
draft of that stuff out next week, which would
That's
give
awesome.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of unfair to put you on the spot, and I didn't want to encumber the Victor's
It's
publishing.
been going for over a month. It's
Great.
my bad for not finishing it. So
Great.
I just want to make that
I'm
commitment for
happy
timing.
to review if you need to bounce ideas off. I'm happy to do that too.
Great. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
maybe have
And
you know
Victor,
how
if
they
you want to
sometimes-
chat outside of GitHub, it may be easier. I'm happy to do that too if it's useful.
We could put a little italicized caveat at the beginning saying this is a member blog post. Here's our policy on that. That would be cool, Abby. If you write that up, if you could also add like just a really two sentences at the top.
I'm sorry. What can you post that in Slack if you don't mind? I missed that a little bit because I was
I'll
just.
chat with you. I'll chat with you.
Yeah.
on
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. And
Thanks all.
see you soon.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye
all.
bye.
Do we have meetings before the end of the year? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Or
I realize we
it's
didn't
like-
bring that up. I'm gonna have to bring it up asynchronously. but
That's
I
okay. That's okay. I just well, as you were
the
leaving,
next
I thought
one
I'd
was-
grab you. Cool.
I
Thanks.
suspect the next one
Boxing Day.
is the day after Christmas. So
So much
I
I'd like
won't
to
be
see you all that day. Yes. Yeah.
I won't be able to be there. So yeah, let me start a thread on that. We can see where people are at.
All right.
Soon we
Please,
will.
if I don't see you till next year, hi everyone. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have a good
Have a
one.
good one. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. Bye bye.